Welcome to Linda's Corner. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about relationships, empowerment, and purpose. I'm delighted to welcome special guest Veronica Williams from the Washington, D.C. area. Veronica is a licensed minister, master certified life coach, keynote speaker, and the co-founder of Alliance Seminars Coaching. You can reach Veronica at allianceseminars.com, and I'll include a link in the description. Welcome, Veronica. I'm so excited to be visiting with you today.
Oh, I'm thankful, Linda. I'm glad to be here.
I am delighted to be able to talk to you. You have expertise on so many subjects, but is it okay if we start with relationships? So
Absolutely.
How does the understanding how men and women see things from a different perspective, how does that help us to help our relationships?
Well, it helps a great deal. It began with my husband and I being asked by our pastor to do a small group study with a bunch of our couples and it was a Bible study. We were going into a small group study, and we had to do research, and we found so many authors that are out there on relationships. It's unbelievable. And as a result, we found out as we dug deeper into each of the books, and they were Christian authors, which is what our faith is as a Christian. We found that we could discover more about our spouses as we dive deeper with communication, understanding, and seeing it from their lenses versus our lenses to make it a healthy marriage. There's no real perfect marriages out there, but there are a great deal of healthy marriages.
I like that distinction, how we don't have to strive to have a perfect marriage or be disappointed if we don't have a perfect marriage, because there really isn't such a thing. But to be able to have a healthy marriage is great. And like our physical health, I can be healthy and I can have a cold and I can be sick for a little while and I can get better. And with our relationships, I feel like it's okay that we're not seeing eye to eye 100% of the time, but we can still just, heal that relationship and be able to get better. So I like that analogy. That's really good. So what do you think, how do men see things and how do women see things? What did you learn from this study?
Well, there was a Dr. Emerson Eckert, wonderful author on love and respect. And if I could paraphrase, I think the subtitle was "A Woman Desires Love and a Man Desperately Needs Respect." And so the one example that I love out of it is he talks about women and men seeing things differently. He said for the woman, she sees with pink lenses and the man sees with blue lenses. And so just take this statement, for instance, I have nothing to wear. So a woman goes in her closet and she says, I have nothing to wear. In actuality, what she's saying is, I have nothing new to wear.
Ah.
So let a man go in his closet and he says, I have nothing to wear. And what that means for him is that he has nothing clean to wear.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's time to do the laundry.
So for the woman, we have plenty to wear. We just didn't have anything with a tag on it or something like that looks new, right? For a man, they hardly ever really splurge a lot. You do have a few that do. But for the most part, a man would go in his closet and he would say, everything in his closet is dirty, so now he has nothing to wear. So, of course, like you say, it's laundry time, right?
Yep.
So getting that, when you can understand that men and women can have the same situation but come out with two different perspectives. And that is the case with marriages on any given topic. And as a result, when we can take out unrealistic expectations in our marriage and really see it for what it is, not who we want it to be, not what we want our desired answer out of the response. But when we can do that, it can put us in a more harmonious place. And another area that he talks about is that when a woman does not get the love that she desperately is looking for or desiring, she can't give her husband respect, and vice versa. And what that does is that puts them on a roller coaster or a crazy cycle, is what he said. And so you're always in constant conflict because you're not seeing eye to eye and you're not really digging deeper as to what's the real issue here.
That's fascinating. Okay, a couple things you brought up. I love the idea about unrealistic expectations. And I believe a lot of our disappointment, our frustrations are stemmed from unmet expectations. And sometimes those expectations really aren't realistic. And sometimes we don't even recognize where they come from. We think, well, everybody thinks like I do, and this is what I think, and this is what I need. So this person is a jerk because they're not giving me the thing that I need. So I like the idea of recognizing what our expectations are and sometimes recognizing where they come from. And if it's okay, I would love a little bit of clarification when you talk about women need love and men need respect. What does that look like to you? How do you respect your husband? How does he love you?
Well, first of all, we respect our husbands as women by the way we talk to them, and by not expecting them to, we disrespect them and not because we feel like maybe he's not meeting our need. I'll do something on this. For example, we want our husband to take the trash out, right?
Okay.
But as women, we nag him. He'll say, I'll do it after the game, but yet it's not done, right? So we place an unrealistic expectation on him, or, that he's going to do it when we say do it. Well, he's not our child. He's an adult, just like you are. And he may be tired, so of course he may forget. But allowing him to do it in his timing versus being the nagging wife, women nagging their husbands about any given situation won't allow him to really meet your need and your desire of wanting love. Because the truth of the matter is, when a husband really shows his wife that I love you, what is it? Women are kinder, when they can speak our love language. Say if you have a love language of touch, and right now he's not really feeling it because the game is on. But maybe if I just be kind, and maybe if I just go sit next to him and watch the game, he might just put his hand on my leg, and so that might help to fulfill a little bit of the need. As far as me wanting touch, that can lead to other things later on. But giving them their space and their time to do it. When we want love, and our husbands don't give it to us in the fashion that we want it, we act out. We become that nagging wife, or we become in our tone, or we get historical with them, which is not really dealing with the issue at hand, but it's dealing with something a long time ago that thought was resolved, but yet you're bringing it up here in the conversation, which thus allows him to get upset, and there you go.
I've never heard it put in that way before. Getting historical. Wow. I've heard of it as like kitchen sinking, where you're thinking about all the things that they never did, and you pull up this and that and the other thing. So getting historical. Ooh, that's a fun new term.
Yes, and that's from Dr. Eckeridge as well, Emerson Eckeridge. And I love it, even now, how my husband and I deal with each other, because you always have something to deal with, but you learn how to approach situations. And so I always go, I say, honey, I want to ask you something, but it's not for us to get, it's not for a crazy cycle. I prefaced it that way. And that's just to prep him. It's something serious, but it's not for us to be argumentative about. It's for us to try to see it from my lens. Like, I want to bring it up because perhaps there's something I'm feeling that isn't resolved. You feel like it is, but I'm not settled with it, but I need more clarification from you.
I like that. So you're trying to share things and explain things from your lens. because we see things from such different angles that to be able to say, well, this is where I'm coming from, can help the other person have maybe a little bit more compassion and a little bit more understanding. Not necessarily, but it can help and lead in that direction. And I like the way that you prefaced and you kind of had a keyword that says, okay, we're going to talk about something, but I don't want this to turn into something argumentative. So that was clever. I had talked to another marriage counselor, and they had kind of a keyword, and she says when we talk and someone says something, and when they say something, they might have one meaning, and when we hear it, we might have a totally different understanding of what that means. And her kind of keyword was, what I make up about what you just said is, and then explain kind of how that was coming in. And since hearing that phrase, my husband and I have used that from time to time. It's like, what I make up about what you just said is da-da-da-da. Oh, no, I didn't mean that at all. What I was talking about was, and that helps bring some clarification. So those are some good tools to help bring clarification.
And a little further into what you just said, another way is we listen for what we want to hear.
Ooh.
We don't listen for what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, and this is what we do in coaching, is that I'll say, honey, this is what I heard you say.
Okay.
Is this how you meant it? So giving them an opportunity to rebuttal what we might have distorted in what they were saying. And that helps also to kind of to help you to listen, to understand, rather than listen to what you want to hear.
Right. And sometimes not even what you want to hear, but what you expect to hear. It's like you talked about those lenses, those pink lenses or those blue lenses. And I think of that as well, where we look at things through kind of a colored set of lenses. And then whatever is actually happened, we still make the story fit what we think is going on.
Exactly. And you can't change a person's story. It is what they say. It is what they have viewed it to be. And so you look at it where you can come together. It's all about diffusing arguments. And, it's okay to disagree. And it's okay to have your different opinion. After all, we don't want to marry someone that's a duplicate of us. We'll never get anywhere. So when we can recognize that my husband isn't exactly like me, or my wife isn't exactly like me, but let me learn to understand, and let me understand her a little more so that I can learn to meet her needs. And so when we are in a disagreement, I can understand what she's really looking for versus me trying to keep at it and it's going nowhere.
That's really beautiful, because what I'm seeing is that the thing that we need, or one of the things that we need, is to care about what the other person wants and what the other person needs. It doesn't work very well if we just say, well, these are my needs and you're not meeting them. But if we also open our hearts and say, what are your needs and how can I help and serve you, then it's just so much easier to reciprocate when it feels like the other person is making an effort.
Yes, and in marriage, we should be learning how to be empathetic and to have empathy. And what that means is that I need to learn to see it from my husband's perspective, especially how we say things. Let me look at it from how did that just come out? Maybe he could take it the wrong way. So maybe I need to change my tone, and maybe I need to dress it up a little bit. Still mean the same thing, but dress it up where it won't be so hurtful.
Good point. And I like how you've mentioned tone quite a bit, because we can say the exact same words and it feels so different. Like you could say, could you please take out the trash versus take out the trash or whatever. And some things feel like a command. And I know my husband does not like to be told what to do. And that does not go over very well. But being asked, and that's a different feel. And so the approach is so, so, so important.
Yes. And really, when we do that, it's respecting our husbands.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the respect come in. How we communicate with our girlfriends, and we respect other people so well that we forget that we need to respect our husbands. he's no different of needing to be respected than anyone else that we know. Say a parent or an elderly person, we still need to know that in this marriage, we mutually need to love each other. We mutually need to respect each other, and we mutually want to have the same outcome, and that is to stay married to one another.
That is a wonderful goal. And I think it's so sad that it's easy sometimes to forget that the one that you're closest to needs your love and respect. And that some things come easy, like in a professional setting where you're working with someone, or like you say, your friends, or maybe the honor that you give to a stranger. My heavens, we certainly should be at least as kind to our spouse as we would be to a stranger. And we can think, would I say that to somebody that I didn't know? Would I use that tone of voice? So that I guess that's kind of a starting point.
It's a starting point, but the bigger picture is when you have children, and it's what they hear. If they hear that mom and dad are always loud and arguing, then that might deter them to go other ways, and it might deter them that they may not want to be in a relationship. But when they see that their mom and their dad are not arguing, but have really nice, amicable, kind-spoken words with each other, that the kids may not know, but mom and dad are really arguing. But it's all about how you present it. And that's coming from you getting to know your spouse very well. Because after all, this should be your confidant, this should be your best friend. This should be, this person takes on so many aspects of your life, because marriage allows and should allow each person to be vulnerable. And I think when people are not vulnerable in relationships, therein lies the differences there, where one lets it all hang out and the other is more stoic and stay to themselves. But you have to both be open and trust each other to communicate how you feel without offending the other person and the other person feeling that you're hurting them.
And that requires that your marriage feels like a safe place, because we can either choose to be vulnerable or we can choose to put up a wall. And when we feel like we're at war in our hearts and in our minds, we want to put up walls to protect ourselves. And to be able to be vulnerable can be quite a challenge. But you're right, it is very, very necessary in order to have a healthy relationship.
Yes, and you learn that. You may not start out that way, but you learn and set goals as to what the two of you want in your relationship. The two of you may have seen something totally different based on your own family makeup. But when you come together, you should discuss those in depth and say, this worked well, this didn't work well, this caused our household to be a disruption or in chaos. So maybe we should leave those pieces out, and then let's just develop it from the ground up. Let's start from where we are now, forgetting what happened in the past and how we were going, but we want to move forward and allow our later years to be our happy years and to be a thriving, successful marriage, that in the end, we know that I really love that person, I really respected that person, and I really feel that this is the person God has for me.
That is lovely. Wow, you brought up some beautiful things. And this is the second time, at least as I'm counting, that I can recall you mentioning about how our families, how as children we recognize and we pick up from our parents what is normal. And the way that we grew up, whatever it was, is what we feel is normal and acceptable. I know one time some of my kids, their friends came over and they watched us interact and said, "You guys don't yell at each other." And from that comment, you can pick up some backstory that this was a strange but good thing that they were noticing, that it was different. It was different from what they had growing up. And whatever we have, we feel is normal. And then we bring that, what we think is normal, into our new relationship. And so you might think, well, this is how we're supposed to handle conflict. We're supposed to yell at each other, or this is how we're supposed to handle conflict, or whatever. So I think we have to be able to, like you said, create something new, and to be able to step back, and we have those expectations for what is normal. This is what people do. And then think, oh, where did I get that? Oh, that's because I watched my mom and dad do that, or that's what I saw this couple do. And then you can say, oh, well, I liked this and I didn't like that. I get to choose what to do in this relationship. We have to get to a spot where we're thinking and not just reacting.
Exactly. And a part of that is we each bring in excess baggage in the relationship. The problem is no one wants to let go of the bad parts of the luggage.
Isn't that weird?
Whether it's our personality, it's a number of things, because we don't realize it's bad habits, Mm-hmm. But I think when you live with someone, and let's just say for me, when you marry with someone, you that person is there with you to see a lot of the things that you do. When you were by yourself, it's just normal. But to someone else, they could say, "Oh, that's weird," Why do you squeeze the toothpaste from the middle? I always learned how to squeeze it from the end. Or how about the toilet paper? Oh, I flip mine over because I like to pull it from over. No, I like mine under. So you kind of have to, it takes compromise.
Isn't that funny that the things that you mentioned, even though they're tiny, that they can create big waves in a relationship if we allow it. It doesn't have to, but it can. Now, with talk of relationships, I know you help give some counseling or coaching to military wives. Do you have military experience? Is that something? What extra needs are there in a military family?
Well, I am a spouse. I am a wife of a military retired Army husband. My husband was in the military for about 21 years. And as a result, you meet various military women at different events and things like that. And I take on friendships with them. And there's military spouses, organizations, and things that I would participate in. And as a result, a lot of times I would meet women and they say, "Oh, you're such a good listener." So then I hear all the stuff, right? But a challenge in with a military spouse being in the military, they have to go away for extreme times, whether it's 3 weeks, a month, 2 weeks, a few days. And that's something wives that are newly being married, and there's some husbands too, you have to adjust to that. And that's where I've helped people learn to navigate when their husband is away on a duty, away from the home, whether it's a year tour of duty, a month, or whatever, learning to adjust and not feel like I'm always here with the kids. He's never here. When he's here, work is done, But learning how to just embrace what you have and realize that it's only temporary. Eventually it's going to come together, but how you feel, you do need to have that conversation with your spouse. Even before getting married, you need to know what their duty is all about and what impact it's going to make on you, and then eventually the family if there was to have kids involved. So helping women is a part of what I like to do. There's a lot of women whose husbands have had to go away for a tour of duty. Instead of taking the family, they may do a year out of the country. And I would help them navigate through finding ways to take care of themselves, finding a babysitter, even though your husband's not there because he's the next good babysitter that because you don't have family here. But looking in your circle and seeing who's able to watch your children. And in today's time, there's organizations that are just babysitting services. You can interview the perfect one for you, especially when you're living away from your family. And so that you can have a few hours out on your own. You don't have to feel like I'm trapped, I'm stuck. Those words are all negative words. But if we can embrace and see it in a positive light, Look at what's around us and use those resources to help us. There's plenty of people that say, well, if you need a babysitter, I'll help. But we don't want to call because we're not people that like to ask for anything. But when someone volunteers, the best response is to take them up on that offer. And I just learned that because I'm a giver, it is hard to receive, but over time, the only way you're going to feel refreshed, rejuvenated, and refueled to handle the crying babies and all of that, you have to take time for yourself and use the resources that are volunteering to help you out.
I love that. So I caught a couple of just golden nuggets out of that. And one is to recognize that you're not alone, to be able to come together in that support group and recognize that there are other people who are going through the similar challenge that you are. And another thing is to create or recognize and embrace a support group, people who can reach out and help you. And also, I love the idea of remembering about self-care. Sometimes we give, and as women, as mothers, we'll just give and give and give until there's nothing left. And the idea that we matter too. And in the airplane, when you get on and they give that little safety briefing and they say, if we have to have an oxygen mask, put yours on first so that before you help others, that when we are in a good place, then it helps us to be able to give better. So sometimes we might feel like, oh, I'm selfish if I take care of me. No, you're not selfish. It helps you to be better able to serve the people that you love and care about.
Right, and you're no good to anyone when you're worn out and exhausted and tired. You're not fit for, we have to take care of our bodies. Mm-hmm. And one thing that we forget, and I guess it's just over the years, with the women being nurturers and set up in a position to always take care of the children, the husband, and all of that. But we have to realize that you're not going to be of any good to any of them unless you take care of yourself. So I can keep feeding and providing a way for people to fulfill and quench their thirst. But if I am thirsty and I never do anything to quench my thirst, I'm not going to be any good after a while. So we're all in it together. We're all here to help one another. And then you just teach your children that mommy need a minute right now. You can sit right here, just play with the toy. Just give me 5 minutes. Because sometimes as a mom with toddlers or teenagers, we need to catch our breath, And I think if we just show the people around us that we're not superwoman, and that we also need some time to ourselves, and we also need to be taken care of, I think then they will value you for that, and they will appreciate that you tell them that. Because if you don't tell people, and if you don't set boundaries, others won't know. But when you begin to set boundaries and allow others around you to realize that, you know what, I'm really exhausted. I normally, on a good day, I normally would help you. Or I normally would be able to do this or to do that. But today I'm exhausted and I just need time to just catch my breath. Even if it's a nap or even if it's just sitting down and doing nothing. I'm really good about that. Sometimes my husband will walk in the room. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Just sitting." He said, "What? What are you?" I said, "I'm just resting, because the TV is down on low, or I may not have it on." He wants to come in. He wants to turn the TV on. Mm-hmm. And, of course, he likes his sports. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit here. You're welcome to turn the TV on. I'm just sitting right now because I've cooked. I've worked a full-time job. I've seen to every one of the kids' needs. And now, at least in the evening, after everyone is settled and full, it's time for me to nurture myself, whether it's sitting, whether it's taking a nice bubble bath in lavender to relax me, or whether it's just to just do nothing and just get ready for bed and just sit in the bed and maybe maybe look at my phone and catch up on emails or text messages, and that's okay. There's no guilty pleasure in taking care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You're number one. And in order to be fit to take care of someone else, it's not going to happen in a way that you would desire it to be.
That is good advice. I love it. I love everything we've talked about today. It has been a pleasure to visit with you. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure as well.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by author Paulo Coelho. He said, "When we love, we always strive to become better than we are. When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too." Today, I invite you to make everything around you a little better by applying some love. See you next time on Linda's Corner.